Hello there, welcome to Boomstick Gaming. I'm Alex, this is Mortal Shell, and today I'll be getting down into the nitty-gritty details of the combat system. Like most all preview coverage, I'm sure you don't need any more of being drowned in the bare minimum basics of the game, so instead, I want to try to make something here that will be hopefully useful pre- and post-release all in one. I have figured out some pretty cool stuff you can do in this, and I want to show off obviously, but also, my goal in this is to make you a little better at Mortal Shell without even having your hands on the controller, which is my preferred style of coverage. Now, although my absolute favorite element that I'm most eager to talk about is the Harden mechanic that has tons and tons of creative uses both defensively and offensively, we will be getting back to that a little later, because first, let's kick this all off by talking about tweaking your attacks and custom combos. I've always been a big fan of being able to do this in action games, where light and heavy attacks can be swapped between mid-combo, allowing for you to strategically avoid certain ones you don't like in a string, and mix in the ones you do. Here, for example, the standard heavy string for the hammer and chisel maxes out at a 3-hit combo, but if you instead throw in a heavy followed by 2 light attacks, you can then finish it out with this nice heavy attack finisher that I like, now making it a 4-hit combo instead. I found you can also cancel out of an attack string and launch right into a jumping attack, which can really improve the distance of the final hit of a combo. If enemies are backpedaling or staggered mid-combo, throwing in a jump attack might just help you chase them down. Next is attack stalling and lengthening, where you just saw the regular speed of the heavy hammer and chisel combo, but by delaying your inputs, you can really tweak when each attack plays out, which might help you in maintaining a combo when an enemy has temporarily moved out of range. Also, the two-handed sword, for example, can delay the startup of some attacks as well by holding down the attack button at the very start. As far as I could tell, this charge up doesn't do any more damage, and if it does, it's negligible, but I did find it to be helpful from time to time with tricky enemy spacing. In some action RPGs similar to this, you can cancel out of attacks at any time with a dodge, but not entirely the case here in Mortal Shell. You can, however, cancel out of the ending leg of attacks with a dodge after the damage impact would have taken place, making combat fall somewhere still in the category of methodical, but also a little snappy for those wanting to sacrifice a bit more stamina. I haven't seen this next detail very often in many games, but after canceling out of combos for a second or two, you can actually continue the combo then after, instead of starting it all over with that initial strike animation. Now, if we combined most everything I just explained, you can start a combo out with 2 quick light attacks, cancel out of that into a jumping attack, finish out with that final attack from the heavy string, and then cancel out of that ending leg with a simple backstep. Pretty neat stuff you can do with just the basic moveset in Mortal Shell, but now, let's get into the more unique and nuanced elements by shifting over to the Harden Shell mechanic. Please allow me to now properly demonstrate this ability very accurately in real life. At any time, if your meter is charged, you can harden the shell of your character, which at the most basic level, functions somewhat similar to a block. This can deflect and absorb any attack as far as I could tell, and another cool detail here is how Mortal Shell indicates invulnerability frames visually, which can be noticed in the backstep when the character shifts into that stony form. I really like stuff like that, no guessing games on what is taking place in the background. Harden can be held down or tapped depending on the situation, and can greatly help you to continue your attacks even when surrounded. Holding down in Harden form is also a completely safe way to regenerate your stamina, at least until you absorb a hit or break out of it. Now, Harden can be just as much of an offensive tool as it is a defensive one, by utilizing it mid-attack. You can use this to buffer and protect your attacks, and if you activate it right before the damage would impact, you can create instant strike traps for when enemies come into range. Also, it just looks pretty darn cool. Instead of being the first one to hit, you can also use this to prime up an attack, negate an oncoming enemies, and retaliate while they're in their stagger animation. Also, if you time Harden right as an attack's damage takes place, you can sometimes get in a hit and then still hold there frozen to brute force through an oncoming next hit. As you can see here in this example, Harden can absorb more than one attack if they happen almost exactly at the same time, and nice try with that headshot over there, buddy. Now, combining much of what I just talked about all together, I can use Harden to protect the ending leg of my already active attack here, use the invulnerability frames of my backstep to buy some time until Harden regens, dance around awkwardly for a moment, and again protect myself from damage while keeping up the offensive with a well-timed use of Harden. A really neat mechanic that takes the simple concept of blocking to a whole nother level. I approve. Here is some extra bonus stuff that I wanted to cover but wouldn't quite fit in those other sections. Now, there are limited use consumable healing items in Mortal Shell, but one of the other main ways the game wants you to heal is by performing parries and ripostes, which are powered by your resolve, indicated by the meter right above your health bar. You can build up resolve normally by attacking and killing enemies, but if you have 0 charges and need some healing immediately, one well-timed parry will fully refund one entire notch, allowing for you to riposte on your next one, giving you some healing. Resolve can also be stored up to fire off your flashy weapon-specific abilities as well, so you can use this resource however you wish. Next, this is more of just a cool little detail I noticed, but in Mortal Shell, you need to familiarize yourself with your items before you fully understand their uses. I was messing around with the tar spore mushrooms, which will just inflict poison damage on yourself when eaten, but when you maximize your familiarity with these toxic shrooms, you will build up an immunity to them. Now when I eat tar spores, I gain 120 seconds of immunity to poison, which is a very common affliction in Mortal Shell. That is a really interesting way to handle item discovery, and I'm eager to see what other secrets lie in wait. I'm still trying to figure out the practical use of using the tainted nectar, which will eject you out from your shell. This also happens when you die, allowing for one chance to get back into your shell to come back alive, and outside of expending this to just top off your health, I'm not sure what other secrets this item is hiding. Guess I'll have to wait and find out. Actually editing this in after the fact, and although it's not combat related, you can get some entirely unique and somewhat comical dialogue while outside of your shell, which is just another nice little attention to detail the devs have added.
I see you're going au naturel today. Quite bold, my dear friend. Not that I'm complaining.
Very last, something I just kind of started playing around with right before wrapping up this video is canceling out of a backstep with an attack right as soon as you get the benefit of its invulnerability frames. This is a slightly more risky alternative to using Harden followed by an attack, but this can help quite a bit while that's recharging. Your standard dodge and roll are pretty decent as is, but neutral backstepping right now is super good. I'm definitely going to start trying to use that more often in my play. And with that, those were all of the fun combat details I sleuthed from just a few hours with Mortal Shell, and I figure this is just the tip of the iceberg, so consider sticking around on the channel as I dive deeper in later on in the year when this is planned to release. I want to know what you think of Mortal Shell so far from what I've shown, because any constructive feedback or things you would like to see happen are still possible prior to launch, and I'll be pinning the best ideas you have down in the comments section for the devs to hopefully see. I was really in the mood for this style of atmosphere and gameplay right now, and this was pretty fun to make, so I really appreciate you giving this a watch all the way up to the very end.
Pleasure.
As always, this has been Alex from Boomstick Gaming, and have a good one.